morning, everyone. Welcome to the Property Subcommittee of Monday, the 17th of June, 2019. How did we get to the 17th of June? Anyway, welcome. And are there any apologies? Are there any declarations of interest in any of the items before us? No, we have the minute of the meeting of the Property Subcommittee of the SB&R Committee of the 15th of April. Can we agree the minute? Thank you. Move on to item 4, which is the school estate programme. And Greg, introduce for us, or I'm not sure who's proposing to. It's, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Convener. What I'll do today, I propose to the committee that I'll run through the significant milestones that have taken place since we last reported on these projects back in February. I'll run through the milestones through page 8 and 9, then I'll run through the appendix, and then I'm happy to take questions. I'll stop each project if there's any questions. Okay, so starting off at the top of page 8, Billigary Recreational Centre. On the 20th of February of this year, an additional £400,000 was added to the project to allow the further lane, which given the 6 lanes and an increased fitness suite. So the project now is within the report it talks about submitting. Shortly we submitted the new project request, so that's the formal kick-off of the project with Hubco. During the last few months we've undertaken the procurement exercise, and I can confirm now that the main contractor will be BAM Construction. We're working on a draft programme, and that will be finalised for the end of the month. Inchture Primary School, the additional nursery is part of the 1140 hours expansion of childcare. The planning application was approved in April 2019. Longforgan Primary School, the refurbishment and extension, which includes the nursery, is the pupils now have been decanted to Errol Primary School, and I can confirm that's working well, and also the nursery is within the church. And Morsons are obviously on site. Perth High School, the new project request will be submitted in the next few days to formalise the kick-off with Hubco, but the procurement exercise has been done. I can confirm the main contractor will be Robertson Construction, and we also have the draft programme for the end of the month. Rattree Primary School nursery extension and refurbishment. On the 8th of May, the planning application was approved, and currently the programme is now being developed. St Ninians, the new nursery there. Obviously that was following the school state review to reconfigure the school and to add a nursery. So the works began in May of this year. So what I'll do now is move on to page 16 in the appendix, and I'll just run through anything else that's additional, and I'll stop for a minute and allow the committee to ask any questions. So Bertha Park High School is on track. We will receive the keys mid-July, and the school will become operational for the start of the new school term. Any questions on Bertha Park High School? No, thank you. Moving over the page, I mentioned Billigary Recreational Centre, so that's just a bit more detail. Obviously all those milestones will be completed for the end of the month and be reported to this committee at the next time.
We've got a question on that. Councillor Lane.
Thanks, Convener. Convener, over about 2 years ago, in response to the question, administration answered that their ambition for the capital projects was that they'd be completed on budget and on time. And in response to a question from Councillor Dugan, this is an important project for Blairgowrie, and it's certainly not been delivered on time. My question is, this further, it's all to be confirmed, so I have not a lot of faith of when this is going to actually happen. It wasn't extra money, it was money put back in to the budget, so it wasn't extra money from the project originally.
What's your interpretation?
Well, if you have a certain sum of money and you take money away and put money back in, we'll argue if that's the money or not. But the question is, how much is construction inflation? We're being told how in the paper coming forward on Wednesday about the Cross-Tay Road link, what an impact construction inflation will be on the Cross-Tay Road link. So I was wondering what impact construction inflation is having on this project.
Mr. Crawford?
I'll answer. We're currently the tender price indices that advice we get are currently running about 4% per annum. Recently, albeit that does go up and down. So by extrapolation, that's what I would. The answer would be about 4% per annum. Albeit that does change from year to year. We are currently programmed to get and costed to get to financial close late 2020, early 2021, and that's what we've budgeted for with the current inflation figures.
Thanks. So it would be correct to say it's about between 8 and 10% extra than if we'd completed and signed the contracts when we originally expected to. That was information I got from the office last week.
I think you've got the figures per annum, and that's if you're suggesting a two-year delay, that's you have that, yes.
No, it wasn't figures per annum. I'd asked what the percentage would be if we took the time scale that we had originally set out to the one that we're looking at now for signing off the contracts, and it was between 8 and 10%, which is like $1.5 million over a project this size.
The project from 2016, the project went through a public consultation, and then there was a discussion about the scope and scale, what should be included. That was firmed up in February of this year. So any comment on what was lost, how much cost would have to bear that in mind. But it was only as we as officers got a clarification in February this year of what the scope of the Blairgowrie Rec Centre would include.
No, thank you, Convener. It's just this is clearly a extremely important project, but it's not been without its delays and issues. And I wonder if I could just be reminded from officers, if we go back to the original proposition and budget, I can roughly remember what the original budget was, but I'd like to see I'd like to hear that confirmed from officers, but also I think probably more importantly for people living in East Perthshire, what the original completion date was for this project and when the money was originally allocated, because my concern is that people in East Perthshire begin to think that this will never happen.
Okay. And I can assure you that as far as this administration is concerned, we will endeavour to make it happen and on budget. Mr. Boland.
Thanks, Councillor Dugan. Obviously, from the top of my head, I think it was June 16. The budget was allocated for the Blairgowrie Recreation Centre, and it was 17.7 million. I think it was last year, June 18. There was 3 million obviously removed from the budget. We obviously undertook the public consultation on the basis of the 14.7 million. Obviously, the feedback from the communities was taken on board, and to allow us to move forward, we required another 400,000, and that was obviously what was allocated this February, which then allows the extra lane, the 6th lane, and also increased fitness suite, which was one of the community requirements in Live Active Leisure. We're quite keen to do that. So I think that, from the top of my head, that's my current indication of the dates and timescales.
Thank you, Convener. But over and above that, which is helpful, I realise we probably didn't have firm dates, but what was the anticipated completion from the allocation of that budget in 2016? What would have been a reasonable completion date for that project?
We never had a proper programme, so there was never a firmed up date. On indicative dates, you're looking around between 3.5 and 4 years to do a project from start to finish like this.
Thank you. I would just add the comment that the reason for the amendment to the budget was that we had listened to the people of Bergary and East Perthshire, and that's why we put in, under public consultation, that's why we put in the extra lane and the extra area for the fitness suite. Councillor Shires.
I think it's more of a comment but a question to officers as well, is that as one of the local members in East Perthshire, there was no set design, there was no set community brief until PML went out and did their consultation. And I think as elected members, we could probably told them some of the findings of that consultation, which was that the community wanted recreational facilities spread out more because of the kind of compact site that there is at the high school. I'm interested in what discussions we're having with the community about how we're going to manage that, because the Blair High and Recce site is very tight, and there's concerns about parking facilities, etc. But the provision of the additional Davy Park facilities, which are growing arms and legs as we expected, because the community have risen to the challenge of finding additional funding, and I'd be interested to know what discussions we're going to have with them about how that's going to be managed, because the partnership with the SFA and other bodies is proving very positive. So it was just to confirm that in 2016 there was no design for this site. We went out with a blank sheet of paper to the community to ask them what they wanted, and we've fitted a budget around that. And that we're not going to deliver a paddling pool with a tin hut attached to it, but actually a state-of-the-art recreation facility.
Okay, Mr. Bowen.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Shires. Yes, we didn't have any kind of designs. We obviously did. It was quite an extensive engagement process we did. Obviously the feedback was, and it's now obviously informed now the scope we've agreed this year and we will take forward. I think it's going to be a really exciting, great opportunity for the community of Blairgowrie. Obviously we've undertaken the procurement, and BAM Construction will now obviously be the contractor building the site. But obviously later this year, when we have the programme, we'll be engaging with the community, and the project like this will create a user reference group, so we'll have all the key stakeholders and make sure communication channels are in place to make sure we engage with everybody we wish. And in addition to that, we will make sure all the things you've covered there, car parking, etc., are taken on board, because obviously we want this project to be successful.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarity, so we're going back out to consultation again? I thought consultation had taken place.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Lane. It's just now about during the build project and making sure everything is taken account of, like the car parking and how the contract will be on site and the work undertaken, how the current facility operates, because obviously that will operate as is until obviously the new recreational centre. So it's probably one of the practicalities and the issues that might be within the local community to make sure we know about any of the issues and we can tackle the issues.
Thanks. Thanks, just permit me. It's one question. It's about just completion.
I'm happy for you to ask questions, Councillor Lane, but please direct them through the chair.
Okay. Thanks, convener. Convener can ask a question. Thank you. I was just looking about completion dates, when we expect this facility to be fully operational, and the other question is, will there have to be a closure of the facility while work's ongoing with the new facility, because obviously, as Councillor Shires says, it is a constrained site, and obviously we need the facility for the school to be operational. So just some clarity there, please, Greg.
Yes, Councillor Lane. Obviously, we're now engaged with the contractors, but our current thinking is that there will be no issue with the current recreational centre, so it will operate as is.
The time frame of the new one being ready?
and we should have a programme for the end of the month in which we'll share all the key stakeholders part of the project. But just to give you maybe an indicative kind of timeline, you're probably looking late 22.
Yeah, so are we just moving forward project by project, Convener?
Yes, yeah, sorry. Okay, moving on, Inchture, so it's a new standalone nursery, and I kind of mentioned earlier that we got planning in April, so there's no other issues with that project. Okay, just moving on to Letham Primary School. So obviously it's part of the early years expansion. We have an extension to nursery and doing some major refurbishment within the site. So we'll have toilets, infrastructure, decoration, flooring, technology upgrades. So works is on site, and the project is going well from our perspective, and there's no issues within the project.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I'm conscious of the exceptional size of the budget that's in there for the creation of the nursery extension, but I noticed the title is School Refurbishment, and I'm conscious of the really very extensive work that's happening within the classrooms of Letham Primary, and I just wanted to understand what, if any, is the split within that 5.7. How much of that, not like to the penny, but how much of it is Scottish Government investment in our early learning and childcare, and how much of it is PKC investment in the fabric of the wider school property? What I'm trying to get to, Convener, is to double check that one isn't layered on top of the other, because I would start to be concerned that we might have been as well replacing the school. So it's just to seek that reassurance.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Dugan. From the top of my head, I think it was roughly just over about 4.2 million we got from the Scottish Government, and we're investing about another 1.5 in the project.
And so for clarity, that 4 point whatever it is from Scottish Government is very tightly ring-fenced for capacity for early learning and childcare, is it not?
The money is obviously to deliver on the early year requirements for next year. We did receive additional money because part of doing that project, and obviously it wasn't a brand new standalone. There was works to be completed as part of the project to do the nursery, and we were fortunate that we did get the money, more than probably for the basic nursery, to allow us to do some infrastructure works. But obviously as on site, we're doing some further infrastructure works on site.
Okay, thanks. One way or another, Convener, will add up to an exceptional transformation of that school. It's very welcome.
Longfargan Primary School, extension and refurbishment. I kind of mentioned earlier, the pupils are decanted to Earl Primary School, which is working well. And obviously, you can see down below, within the site, it's a grade B listed building, which might prevent challenges we go. But at the minute, things are moving forward, and no other issues on the project.
Question on that one. Thank you, Convener. Just a quick question. The current issues identified with Longfargan Primary School are issues commencing. There are issues with commencing full demolition required due to bat survey programming. I just wanted to check whether a bat survey hasn't, or an endangered species survey hasn't already been carried out prior to the granting of planning permission.
I would have to say I can't give you that detail here, but that would normally be a condition of the planning application. Obviously, bats, when you can survey, when you can do demolitions, but I couldn't give you detail here.
Okay, thank you. Because part of the requirements for planning, for submitting a planning application, would normally be making sure that any surveys required to comply with the Habitats Directive have been done before the planning application. So it would be useful to know if this is an additional bat survey, or the bat survey that would have been required up front. But if you could get back to us with that information, thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Okay, moving on to Oakbank, the nursery extension there
Just to interrupt for a second, it may be due to the timing of the original application for the change or something like that. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, convener. So Oakbank's obviously having an extension to its nursery. Property obviously developed what that will be, and we're looking to go on site towards the end of this year, November, and complete for next summer. Perth High School, the replacement of the current school. I mentioned earlier that Robertson Construction have been appointed as the main contractor. The project team now obviously been formed, and obviously the procurement's done, so now we're moving forward. We're looking to have a programme for the end of the month. And there's no other issues on the project.
Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, convener. Just a question on how the planned capacity of this new build Perth High School.
What's approved and budget for is 1600 Perth High School. Obviously we're doing a work in aware of obviously the tri-school and reviewing the Perth City, but the current budget's based on the 1600 Perth High School.
Okay, thanks. And just obviously Perth High School is in very close proximity to the academy. I know that there are, obviously until recently the work on Perth to replace Perth High School was going to be refurbishment rather than replacement. At the moment, I'm just wondering about Perth Academy, whether that is needing refurbishment or replacement, or when that will be, and therefore whether any sort of allowance for capacity increase at the Perth High School site has been thought of in connection with the Perth Academy site.
Yes, Councillor Stewart, we've been doing a lot of work because obviously we have like the tri-school engagement going on, which just closed at the end of 7th of June was the closing date. So yes, we are looking at what is the future size and development of all our Perth City secondary schools. Currently, we have around 16.9 million of investment in Perth Academy, and we're obviously currently looking at Perth Grammar School, which has obviously got money to invest in as well. So at the minute we're trying to clarify exactly what is the vision for the next replacement school in Perth Kinross.
Thank you.
Convener, it's just really a request for clarity. I wouldn't rush to clarify correct Councillor Stewart. I'm just wondering if he got a bit muddled in his question there. I think he asked officers or asserted to officers that prior to recently the ambition for Perth High School was one of refurbishment rather than replacement. I'm unaware that that was ever the case, ever, and that whilst Perth High School would be maintained, like all our schools are, to a certain standard, there was never, ever an ambition to refurbish Perth High School building.
Okay, there was a 10 million figure, I believe, in the budget previously, which I couldn't give you clarity on, but if it was for maintenance, then that would be.
Well, that's helpful, convener, because I can give you and the committee clarity that as I was part of the administration that put that £10 million into the budget,
yep,
it was for replacement, not for refurbishment.
Okay.
It was the beginning of an investment fund that was due to attract further investment from elsewhere.
Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Can I just clarify then?
Yep.
I don't know whether this would be to officers or yourself, but would that have been additional money from the Scottish Government that they then decided they weren't giving us?
Yes, convener. Yeah, no. You know as well as I do that no local authority, or very few local authorities, will replace a school without some input from that local authority, whether the Scottish Government comes on board or not. At that stage, it wasn't known whether the Scottish Government would come on board or not, and the Scottish Government can speak for itself, but having delivered an entirely brand new secondary school just a few miles away from Perth High School, perhaps that's why they thought that they wouldn't do that. But it doesn't change the crucial point of information that I'm asserting, which is that any implication that the high school was to be refurbished is wrong.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bullen.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Perth Primary School, which was a new dining hall and refurbishment. The project is coming to its end of its kind of life, and it will be complete for September this year.
Councillor Shires.
Can I just add on that, just a comment to officers that I was out on site for something else and the head teacher gave me a bit of a guided tour, and thanks to officers that have done the work there, because it's definitely made a dramatic improvement, particularly the loos.
Thank you, Councillor Shares. I'll pass it on.
Thank you.
Moving on to Rattree, the nursery extension refurbishment. Obviously there was a delay to this programme, but I'm pleased to confirm in May of this year the plan application was approved, so now we're obviously moving ahead with the programme in the works. Obviously, unfortunately, now we won't complete for next August, and indicative timescales are April 2021. But we will put arrangements in place to make sure we deliver on our commitment to 1140 hours for August 2020.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shires.
Can I just ask again, in the vein of the question that Councillor Dugan asked about the amount of money that we're putting into the refurbishment works in the school as opposed to the nursery?
Not told me the exact figure, but top of my head, I think it was around about 2.2 million we received from the Scottish Government, and we must be obviously the balance of that, which is roughly about 1.4 million that the council is investing within Rattree Primary School.
Okay, thank you.
And finally, within the report, St Ninians, I kind of mentioned that earlier. That was obviously one of the recommendations from the school state review, that we should reconfigure the school due to its undercapacity and include a nursery. So that project's moving forward. There might be a slight delay on the December 19 date, but obviously we're well on track for next August to deliver on the 1140.
Okay, no questions. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that, Mr. Boland. Move on to item 5, which is the disposal by auction of the outdoor centres at Kinlochranov and Blackwater. Do we have any comments or questions on that? I'm aware that there are one or two questions that have come up, but I'll happy to take questions. Councillor Lane.
Thanks. At this point, I'm maybe declaring a non-financial interest as I'm a board member of LAL, and the questions relating to 1.2, where it says, accordingly, LAL has taken the difficult decision to withdraw from the operating outdoor centres and serve notice to quit from both these centres. I think that was in LAL's budget. It was presented to the BRGs, and it was fully aware that if the budget that LAL received, this would be a result to make their budget balance.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm just a note of caution if you're declaring an interest in it, just to be cautious of your comments. But thank you for that. Councillor Duggan.
Thanks, Convener. So this is a product of the council's budget decision in February. Well, so if we take it a step, this isn't the point of, I'm not trying to blame you for the closure of these facilities. So we took a decision with LAL's SLA in order to make their budget balance. They took the decision to close these centres. It's a timing issue, not a funding issue that I'm pursuing here. So that was February, and we're in June, seeking to dispose of them at auction. Right. So I don't have a problem with the auction aspect of it. I think officers have turned up some good results from auctions over the years of difficult properties that we've struggled to dispose of in other ways. I am a wee bit concerned about the timing, convener, and I wonder if officers could assure or reassure rather the committee about the apparent haste with which we're getting these buildings off our books, principally within the context of community asset transfer. Sometimes I think we should be respectful that it can take communities a little bit longer to get organised in terms of their ambitions for buildings, and I'm concerned that we haven't given them that opportunity for one or other or both of these properties. So it's just to really seek that reassurance, because it is a concern.
And clarity, really, as well. Who do we have? Sorry. Malcolm, yes.
Councillor Dugan,
Yep.
just to let the property subcommittee know, there has been an asset transfer request for Kinlochranna. Came in late Friday afternoon. So there is a request in for Kinlochranna, but Blackwater, no community request so far.
So I was aware that a community request had come in, but I'm happy for it to come from the floor. I would ask that the committee ask the officers to take cognizance of that and listen to the community request and action that if it's appropriate before taking the opportunity of sending it to auction or selling it by any other means. If the committee is content with that. Councillor Shires.
I would be happy to agree with that. And with regards to the Blackwater one, I happen to have attended, just to give you some comfort, both the Mount Blair Community Development Trust and the Community Council meeting where this has been discussed. And the community are actively pursuing options with regards to Straloch Primary School at the moment. And there's also a very well used village hall just down the road which has accommodation facilities, so probably not. And then we've got private sector run outdoor centres just up the road. So I think I would thank officers for the work that has been done with the communities looking at asset transfers of other buildings in these remote communities.
Okay, Councillor Lane.
I'd like to move an amendment that we don't put them to auction at this time to give further chance for people to come forward. And if nothing comes forward for community asset transfer, I'm quite happy to go with it. But I think we should look at this again at the next, if we could defer it to the next property subcommittee and give the communities a chance. I don't know how many, there are rural areas, especially Kinlochranna. So that's my amendment.
Yeah, I'm quite content with that. There's two sides to it. One, I think we should listen to the opportunities for community asset transfer and offers. I think I wouldn't like to prevent the road to auction either, particularly. So I'm happy to accept your amendment. And should we exhaust our opportunities with community asset transfer, that we can bring it to short notice, really, to a property subcommittee to allow it to go forward to auction, if the committee is content with that. Okay.
So, just for a time frame, yep. Thank you for taking that on board. It's just to give communities, as I say, it's only been 2-3 months, and it takes a while, as Councillor Dugan said, to get it. So are we talking about giving it till that be September, the next meeting? It's another 2 or 3 months. Or
earlier. I mean, I think the Kinlochranna Centre and Blackwater are two separate issues, to be honest, and Blackwater may not have the opportunities for community asset transfer that Kinlochranna does. So I don't want to burden them by being, partners in this. That's really
it's
why
just
I was
that they're lumped
offering
in,
some flexibility
in the one paper together.
Because I think there's opportunity to progress Blackwater to auction, whereas I suspect Kinlochranna will take another route. Councillor Shires.
I was just going, as a local member, I would agree a note of caution there, because I think the Blackwater one is very different, and if there is an opportunity for that to, somebody else to take it on for some purpose, that would be welcomed by the local community, rather than have it sitting with a for sale sign for ages.
Yeah, and given that we are a fairly tight committee, there's the opportunity to reconvene quite quickly, if that's deemed appropriate.
I think, convener, I agree with that. As far as I'm understanding, we're deferring this until the next reconvene. And during that window, communities will have an opportunity to construct a bid on either property.
But if there's no indication of anything coming forward, if there's no community interest coming forward for Blackwater or whatever, I would be minded that we progressed.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's right.
Okay, Councillor Stewart.
Can I just ask what the timescale for that deferment would be then?
Between now and September. Sorry. The next meeting is on the 19th of August. So, yeah, before that. Councillor Stewart.
It was a question if we had any, there's a note in the paper that we've done quite well on selling properties at auction. Do you have any indication of the anticipated level of receipts for either of these properties if we went to auction? Or if you don't want to tell us, then
I wouldn't want to put figures into your head as such, but we've stated at 100,000, obviously, because that's a delegated authority amount that we have at present to be able to bring stuff to committee. I think the other aspect, for example, with Blackwater, is we would have to go and inspect it ourselves once the occupants are out, which I understand is in July. Is it June? Yeah. So we have a better understanding then.
okay, thank you. So it's the 100,000 is the delegated authority, so it would be in excess of that. Okay, thank you.
Convener, can I just check for clarity that you're going to defer both these cases with the intention that they come back to the next property subcommittee?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much for your attendance this morning, and I'm aware there is another briefing presentation in this arena at 10:30. Thank you all for your attendance.